Welcome to the Mistake-Free Real Estate Podcast. I am your host, Marck Lautour, and today we have a special bonus episode, an internal episode from the corridors of SBD Housing. Joining me today is our Chief Operating Officer, Chris Johns. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mark, happy to be on.
So guys, today we're going to do a deep dive on the role of the CEO and the COO. As you all remember, it was about 2 years ago that I reached out to Chris and started broaching the topic of bringing him on board as a COO for our business. And so the question I get asked often is, why did I do that? What was wrong in the business? Why did I choose to, bring on someone that would be able to help us, in that role? Chris, for those that may not have had that one-on-one time with you, give us the quick synopsis of your career prior to coming to SBD.
Yeah, Mark, I spent the vast majority of my career working for some of the largest healthcare providers in the country and frankly in the world, running large teams. So mainly focused on the sales side. Prior to that, I had the opportunity to work with some small businesses as well. So I think, getting back to my roots and working with smaller and medium-sized businesses was very appealing. And I knew that would resonate well. But I also think, my opportunity to spend a lot of time with big corporations such as LabCorp or Philips Healthcare gave me a well-rounded background to slide into this role.
That's right. And it was a good fit. What Chris and I were focused on initially was in that transition was really trying to, overlay a more professional culture in the organization. Chris, if you'd like to speak a little bit about, the small business mindset versus the corporate mindset and the air of accountability that just exists and has been ingrained in corporate versus a small business environment that's normally sometimes just kind of top-down decision-making and, as Jim Collins would put it, kind of the genius with 1,000 helpers.
Yeah, so we can look at that a couple different ways. Pros and cons to both ways, Mark. To your point on the corporate side, corporations do a fantastic job of setting out great structure and process for the people that are there. It is very, very clear while you are cogging that wheel that whatever part you're playing is instrumental and will be measured, and you'll be held accountable to achieve your small part in a very methodical way. And so I think that's the main focus for an employee in many corporations is you do your small part, you stay in your box. If you do that, we continue to keep you here. You'll get your nominal pay increase. And if you excel at that, there might be opportunity for promotion. And that's the way many people get their, as we used to call in corporate, their golden handcuffs. They're doing well enough that it's hard for them to leave. And you accept some of the things that aren't enjoyable. But one of the things that's a negative of corporate that I think you find in a great culture in small business is you really are a number. When I was at LabCorp, I was on my way up. I was 3 from the top, 3 seats down from the CEO, and my name was 102125. I'll never forget it. That's how things were referred to, and I was as good as my last budget, and that's just the way life was, and you accepted it, and that was fine. But as I looked at my time in small business, and certainly here at SBD, the culture is way, way different. So when I look back at SBD, where it was, where we're going, we didn't have the structure in place. People probably didn't know the things that they needed to be held accountable as well in small business as you do in corporate. But man, you get an opportunity to treat people more like people. That's one of the things I really do like about small business versus corporate.
Yeah, I think it's at that transition. There was an interesting statistic that I saw that only 4% of all businesses in the world exceed that $1 million in gross revenue. And that's quite challenging, to get to that hump. And I think once you reach that hump is when you know that you've really got to start, it's no longer just a solopreneur that is a one-man show. And that's, I think, where we'd kind of reached where, obviously the visionary, the integrator combination is such that if you don't have that from the get-go of from the founding of the company, it can really strain either one way or the other. Typically, an entrepreneur like myself is the visionary, the CEO in that mold, but you don't become a CEO until such time as you have the integrator on board with you. I mean, there was no, yes, my title now inside the org is CEO, but clearly, for many, many years, I was just the business owner. I was an era of top-down decision-making with a bunch of people trying to help out. And that's a lonely position to be in.
Well, I mean, goodness, Mark, not only is it lonely, but I feel like it's probably hard for you to enjoy what you're doing. Certainly I was privy to a lot of what you were going through and what many other not necessarily business owners, but more entrepreneurs at that stage. If you've got to really make the decision for every single department, at that time we had 4 or 5 departments that were all leaning on you to make every decision. I don't know how you could enjoy doing that. And it was, literally every decision from, hey, what I can get, should we get a copier or should we continue spending money on ink, as well as should we try and do this couple $100,000 business deal over here? So I think that, that's what a lot of people face. And it was interesting to watch you make this transformation from being, kind of a solopreneur to now really, truly a business owner who is able to focus on just a handful of key attributes that make the business tick going forward.
Yeah, it's been an amazing transition, and we can talk a little more about it. I will say the 3 things. I read a book called A CEO Only Does 3 Things. Very valuable book. Trey Taylor, I think, was the author. But really resonated with me because the CEO truly just does 3 things, and that is vision and strategy, putting a focus on where the company is going, finance, and making sure there's money in the bank, which for us as we scale is, multiple banking relationships and managing those. And then finally, people and relationships, big relationships and big deals. And so those 3 things are now occupying my time, but I don't think people are really aware of that transition that you have to, when I'm truly only doing those 3 things, I am not making decisions on acquisition. I'm not making decisions on disposition. I'm not walking the properties and looking at rehabs anymore. And it may come as a shock to people that know that because I was so hands-on in the interim, but you have really transitioned into that role. I mean, a chief operating officer, your role is to run the business, right? What are your 3 things?
Yeah, but if I had 3 things, I think it's, we talk about L.M.A all the time, Mark. Lead, manage, and hold accountable. From a leadership position, I take where you want to take the culture, and I ensure that myself and the team is really leading the individuals to, work within the confines of our culture and our core values. I think core values is a really critical part of what a CEO and COO can do from a top-down perspective. So, really work with my team and we lead the business, but to manage the day-to-day, that's pretty simple. We'll set goals or rocks. We're an EOS organization. And we'll get the processes in place to ensure that, we're able to achieve goals with good process. And then in the end, it's, hey, we expect to win here. And so we have a scorecard, and that's the accountability that comes in. We've got great people, but in the end, we are here to make money and to take care of, for us, our investors, and create a great product for them. Without accountability, we can't do that. So those are 3 things I really focus in on.
So let's just do a deeper dive on that, because a lot of our audience are small business owners and they're like, look, how do I transition and give up control? And I know when we presented on this topic on the big stage at Collective Genius, the real estate mastermind group that we're a part of back in December, it was very well received, and we just got a ton of interest from our fellow real estate investors and colleagues. Let's take a minute just to look at each of those, L, M, and A. So lead, manage, and hold accountable. Let's start at the top. When you talk about leading, it takes talent, right? So part of your role in leading an organization is talent acquisition, which obviously is part of my role as people and people as well. But then the talent that we brought on has really helped us grow. Talk a little bit about the specifics of leading. How do you view leadership in small business?
Well, I think one of the things that's hard, for small business, Mark, is that commitment to bringing in talent and the costs that come with it. So as you're a small business and you're growing, you want talent, but man, many people look at the human capital as a cost. where I think if you're going to lead a great organization, you need to look at investing into the right people. So as we came, to working together and driving this business forward, you were gracious enough to trust me on, let's, spend a little bit more, or let's bring in a higher caliber person into the organization, and make an investment into the people. And we've done that. And so that's allowed me to, hey, you're making my job easier by allowing me to hire talented people, but that's going to help us go faster. So I think that's one of the things. Again, I talked about great leadership has to come from core values. There's no doubt. If we don't have a lens for you and I to make decisions, moreover, for our entire team to make decisions, which is our core values, drive all those decisions. Gosh, we're in construction. Quality is one of our core values, but people have to trust us to do the right thing. And when we have quality as a core value, and it's an expectation of working here that you're going to do the right thing, our construction manager doesn't have to call me to say, Chris, this is borderline. I think we should do this, even though it's going to cost the company more money. He just makes that decision. It's not even a hard decision because it's core value. So I think leadership will set clarity on the expectation of the behavior of the team who we have working here.
Love that. In fact, for those that have not listened, go back to one of our former podcasts with Marty Albertson. He had a gem of a quote there, talking about human resources. Think of resources as natural resources. And he had a great quote, which I won't spoil by trying to remember it off the top of my head. But it was the way that he views the human resources as something that, water is full of energy and is dynamic and can provide power. But if water is just sitting stagnant, can also be septic and toxic to an organization. And having the right people, the right human resources for your team, it's pretty powerful. So shout out to Marty Albertson, and definitely go back and watch that podcast. Next on your, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just say a couple of things that come to mind. I know we've talked about this a lot, but as we look at the talent acquisition and leadership, one of the things that you and I made a commitment to that was probably more of a corporate mindset than a lot of small businesses is building a bench. Right. So whenever we hire somebody today, it's not about necessarily their capacity to fill the role that's open. It's can they move up and fill that next role? And if they can't, is that the right hire for us? And then also, if somebody's not a great fit for a role today, but they're a talented person and they meet our core values and we think they could be somebody that could bring value, we're going to keep them in our Rolodex and we're going to have a follow-up with them because we want to get talented people into the organization. And again, it's not necessarily talent on the job they're going to do, but do they have perseverance? Are they a great communicator? Are they a hard worker? Those are the skills we're looking for. I didn't know a lick about real estate before I started investing in it a couple of years ago. And now, I'm helping run one of the preeminent real estate investment firms in the country. The other thing I was going to say, as we're leading and building up a great leadership team, expect that there's going to be some turnover. When you started this business 20 years ago, you probably didn't dream that you're going to end up here, or certainly where you're headed going. And so you're bringing in people who may fit a role today, and your business might outgrow their skill set. You shouldn't be beholden to holding the business back because you need to scale your business. Ideally, you find somewhere in the organization that fits for them today. And if you don't, give them the freedom to go somewhere where they can be use their talents in a meaningful way.
No, you've done a really good job on the front end also. I mean, we both take turns at interviewing and I enjoy my time when I'm in that room with our candidates. But I think one of the things I see you doing is setting a very clear expectation, almost telling them all the reasons that they shouldn't want to come here, right? And then, telling them that we do hold people accountable, that we are a driven organization. We need people that are humble and team first. And you set the stage so that, it's just very... And if they say, well, is there opportunity to go and do this in the future? Don't say, oh, yeah, sure, maybe. It's no, probably likely not, if that's the case. I mean, you're just very honest and open with them. You're not blowing smoke in the interview like I see some people do.
Hey, man, we're blessed from where we sit to be able to offer jobs to folks and career paths. But it's a relationship. It's a deep relationship. The team may not always know how much I do care and how much you care because it's always hard to hold people accountable and care for them, but that's the right thing to do. I used to work for a company and a manager who would convince people to take a role, and then I would be there to clean the mess up. And it's crazy to me. Let's just eyes wide open all the time. Transparency, that should be a core value, but we can't have 5 of them or 6 of them.
For those that, everyone's probably on bated breath. Our core values are professionalism, accountability, communication, and quality. Let's move on to the second of your roles, from leading to managing. And how do you differentiate between those two, from leading to managing? How does that resonate with you?
Yeah, again, I think leadership is how we present ourselves, how we treat others. That's just more of the way we interact and inspire each other. You do a fantastic job of leading the organization by not just casting a vision, but you share that vision, right? But managing is really getting into the day-to-day, the nitty-gritty, right? So we have a problem. Okay, let's solve it. What's the process that's going to go into that to ensure that we don't have that same problem again? So I look at manage as, setting out processes and setting out rocks. Again, EOS organization, and a rock is one of those 2 or 3 big things that each individual is going to do in a quarter. And we set those things out there in advance, and then we manage people to that end goal.
I think one of the big mistakes that entrepreneurs make is they think that they probably skimp on talent is the biggest thing, and don't pay for the talent.
100%.
And then they always try and do things, and no one can do it because I've always done it this way. And they don't allow their team to jump in. That's one thing you are very patient in the workplace, which I know you always grin at because you feel like you're an impatient person, but you will allow someone to fail so they learn their lesson and then continue to drive value to the org by not making that same mistake again. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to let anybody do anything catastrophic. But gosh, I'm a person who, the easiest way for me to learn is to do it myself and be wrong. And I think that's the way, and I'm not paralleling employees and children here necessarily, but gosh, some of the best parents allow their kids a little bit of slack to go out and make mistakes. They come back and they say, well, I really learned my lesson. So yeah, I'm patient with our team. I allow them to make mistakes. If you and I run a business where it's all about being right all of the time, are we going to go very far, very fast? No way.
Not at all.
You've gotten very, very far away from the day-to-day, and we'll talk about the benefits of that later. I'm getting a little bit further away from some of those smaller decisions that I used to make because we trust our team. And honestly, Mark, I'm not the smartest guy in the room and never need to be. We need to hire people who are the right people for that role and let them tell us what to do versus us telling them. Steve Jobs has got a quote out there that's something along that line of, hire people and have them tell you what to do, not you tell them. And I believe that wholeheartedly, but you got to let them make a mistake.
So let's talk about mistakes and then talk about holding people accountable. What are the ways that you have ingrained now in SBD? How do we hold people accountable and measure their success?
Yeah, again, I'll point back to EOS as well. We have a scorecard. So in our weekly meeting on Mondays, we review where people stand to those quarterly goals, those rocks.
Who's in that meeting?
The entire leadership team. So for us, it's our marketing department, our transaction coordination team, our acquisition leadership, our sales leadership, and our construction. So we get in that room and we're getting more and more efficient at that meeting. It's called an L10. But yeah, we're there to talk about where are you in relation to your quarterly goals? What are the things that the employees are doing well and not so well so we can celebrate or course correct? And then what are the outstanding small weekly items that we need to get done? And that in and of itself with the scorecard allows everybody to be held accountable. And man, you'd be amazed. You're not having to, when you have clarity on where you're going, people will get there. If we ran a business that had a lot of ambiguity and lack of direction, which I think happens in smaller businesses with less structure, you don't go anywhere. Employees are confused. They don't know what you want. Depends on the day. Man, these guys know exactly, guys and gals know exactly what they need to do for the next 90 days, every quarter.
Yeah, and you've also cautioned me. I mean, you've seen from a visionary's perspective, that the idea is that, a visionary has 10 great ideas a day, maybe an hour, and thrusting them on other people. Someone can a visionary or a entrepreneur can oftentimes think that that's helping the org, when really I have realized now that that really was holding us back for some time. Is people felt overwhelmed trying to keep up with where my brain was at. And that has been therapeutic, I think, for the organization, of having a layer of, um, a layer of management, of accountability in between me and the staff. None of the staff obviously report to me anymore. In fact, there's an accountability chart that we hold in the office, and there's only one line to me, and that's you. So you and I have discussions. Everyone else, would obviously be eventually a report to you, and there's obviously a layer of management below you also. So speak to the whole idea a minute, and how that can cause, and if you have a specific example, feel free to share, of ways that I feel like you've been very patient sometimes in saying, when I will say, hey, we want to do this and this and this, yeah, that's a Q2 thing, or that's a Q3 thing, or punting it, not overwhelming. For example, marketing, right? I mean, with Lindsay coming on, heading up our marketing team, there's constantly things that I want to do, and you're like, hey, she's working so hard right now. You've got to put the brakes a little.
No, I mean, again, you are the epitome of visionary. I mean, I couldn't sleep if I had the things that go through your brain going through mine. It's a million ideas in a given period of time, some of which are great. But I very seldom do I say, no, Mark. I say, no, not now. Because you and I have already set and cast a vision for the company. We're going to keep the main thing the main thing, so our team can succeed in achieving our quarterly rocks and overall our financial objectives for the year. And we will sprinkle into some of those great ideas as needed. But if you look at where the business probably was without that intermediary, you also have to recognize you signed a paycheck. Who's really going to tell you no comfortably? They're all going to say yes, and we're going to run around doing 30 different things poorly. Let's do 10 things really, really, really well, and then add on a few more next quarter and see where that gets us. And here we are, almost 24 months in, and we've come a long way. And you're getting probably more than you expected out of the organization by not doing everything you want.
Yeah, getting far more out of the organization, and quite frankly, need to talk about where we're going, because that's truly allowed us, to scale. We've patiently, as I've said all along, we've been hovering with our foot over the accelerator pedal, just kind of building the machine with you on board and layering the L.M.A. strategy over our entire organization. But now that we've hired talent, we've built the bench, we're ready to go. Now we are firmly foot on the accelerator pedal. So you want to share a little bit of the audience what we have in store for 2021? We're no longer just a Kansas City company, right?
Yeah, amazing, Mark. So 2020 was a great year for us. We were able to, achieve and meet our objectives for the year. And but this year's a big year. Through the preparation, holding that foot over the pedal, and doing all the things you noted, we will experience probably well over 100% growth this year. And we'll do that not just in Kansas City, but exciting. We are now in Illinois and Iowa, and are buying assets and rehabbing assets up there, quality assets that meet, the same parameters that we expect for our investor clientele to receive, as they have always here traditionally in Kansas City. And we will be, knock on wood here, acquiring our first asset in Alabama today. And again, going to keep our standards as we always have, but we've seen that growth, and that has come from you allowing me to manage the business. We've set those goals, we've gotten there. But what's more exciting, and I think what you probably want to talk about, is the things that you are able to now bring on board. As I've scaled that segment of the business, why don't you tell everybody where you're taking your time and your talents?
Yeah. So, I mean, people may say, oh, great. So you're able to scale into other states, because Mark's focusing on that. No, I'm really not. That's actually not my core focus. We've actually been able to do that through the operational excellence of where the company is, the hard work of not only Chris, but also Mike Sullivan, lead property manager, Jen Schmidt in transactions, and obviously our construction team and our partners in construction that have been on site walking in all these different departments. I think we've had 4 or 5 employees up in Iowa already. So, I mean, it's a team game. It's not just Chris and Mark running it up there. So anyway, yeah, that's all on, I'm going to say on autopilot. I will just say I don't have
from your desk. It is.
Yeah, from my desk. It certainly is. No, yeah, I'm excited, Chris, to share. I haven't really told anyone this, but we've actually taken down our first land acquisition. We've got a plot of land in a B+ area of Independence, really nice street, where we're going to be able to put some fourplex units. So we'll be doing new home construction and be rolling that out October, November, December. So probably a late Q3, early Q4 process for our investors to be able to buy new home construction, well, new multifamily construction of all things in the Kansas City marketplace. So that is huge. Also been working obviously on the banking relationships and the big relationships in Alabama. Again, that's definitely under my umbrella, the financing side of things. And we've got two great partners just in, well, late 2020 and then now in early 2021 have just brought on two new banking partners. One in Iowa, the largest credit union in Iowa is now a banking partner of SBD. And also in Alabama, we've got a huge bank down there, a $2 billion institution that's going to take on our operation down there. So great relationships there that are allowing us to scale. And then lastly, again, a work in progress, but something we're pretty excited about is taking down in partnership with a new home builder, a large 100-acre tract of land that we're looking at doing about close to 100 units, all duplex units. So again, just opportunities abound when we're in the luxury position of just having far more demand for our assets than we do inventory. And so with me trying to solve that inventory problem, we're doing it creatively through collaboration and partnerships on the new home construction side.
Yeah, amazing, Mark, for you to be doing these things now. Had you not made the commitment to the organization, again, we're talking about bringing on a number two, a COO, and getting your business a little more streamlined, making that commitment, you probably wouldn't be doing these new construction opportunities. Probably would be slowly moving into other markets. I know you've looked at it, you weren't able to pull the trigger, but now you can. I mean, the explosive growth that's going to come to SBD is because you're able to do what you're most talented at, which is driving new ideas and creating big partnerships. That's what you've always been great at, and letting your team go do the rest.
Yeah, vision without execution is hallucination, is a quote that we use around the office. Vision without execution is hallucination. So for an entrepreneur that's just vision strong and wanting to scale, man, it's a stressor, and it can truly just crush an organization where the organization feels stressed at all points. But with execution and swift operation, which is what you've come in and really overlaid over the past 2 years, has really allowed me to create not a hallucination environment, but one of great growth and opportunity. Because yeah, it's always fun to go and use my skill sets of partnerships and collaboration and trying to come up with creative ways to drop revenue to the bottom line and provide great assets, to our investor base that is just clamoring for the relief. What we deliver for our investors. Yes, they're assets. Yes, it's cash flow. But a lot of times, Chris, it's just relief from the day to day. I mean, we work with dentists and doctors and lawyers and accountants and salespeople that are just grinding away, making active income. For them to be able to put their money into something that's going to generate passive income is a blessing. And I'm just so proud of the organization, how they always have that investor focus.
Man, it is, I spoke with an investor today who is, a corporate sales guy, does very, very well for himself, but really joined SBD at a time where he thought, man, I'm going to need more at some stage of my life. I don't want to stay in this rat race forever. And he was talking about the benefits of the passive income, but what he really nailed was the peace of mind that he gets now from building that portfolio, hands off. He goes to work every day, makes a lot of money, but he's building his future right now without having to do anything. And he knows, and he complimented the property management team. He said, you guys have gotten so dialed in on this thing. I don't even have to think about it. So kudos to the property management team, but that's what we're trying to deliver.
It's definitely showing through. What does Warren Buffett say? If you can't figure out a way to make money while you're sleeping, you're going to work for the rest of your life. And there's a lot of truth to that. And, real estate is that vehicle that offers that passive income. So anyway, off of that soapbox, but hey, Great conversation today. I think it's really opened, hopefully, opened up people's awareness of the role of the COO inside SBD, but also, the role of the CEO. And I'm taking pride in, delivering my value to the organization through my three things of vision, finance, and big relationships. So again, thanks, mate, for your time today. Always appreciate it. And until next time, guys. We will sign off and say, wishing you all the best to lead your mistake-free life.
You're listening to Mistake-Free Real Estate Radio, the authority in passive real estate investing. No late-night calls, no clogged drains, no tenant nightmares. Take the passive investor's approach to real estate investing and trust a turnkey professional. Learn more at mistakefreerealestate.com. Until next time, remember, you don't get rich from what you earn, you get rich from what you own.